Robin DiAngelo is cooked. Make no mistake about it. That's why she's deleted her social media.
She called it a fascist Nazi white supremacy film, and she claimed that she was conned into being in the film.
So they essentially just lied, wasting the time, effort, and money of everybody at these news studios to prove a point.
The critics claim that
Matt and company are revealed as just disingenuous at best and outright manipulative liars at worst.
Is it ethically okay to pretend to be one movie in order to get these interviews?
See, Matt and his crew apparently faked credentials and managed to use a fake DEI workshop they started to show how easy it was to grift your way to prominence in this DEI space.
Robin DiAngelo claiming she was tricked into doing it.
As a con artist, of course, herself, she knows a lot about, being conned. Quote, back in 2023, I was contacted by a group who claimed to be making a documentary film called Shades of Justice. They plan to interview anti-racist activists, authors, and thought leaders in service of supporting the cause of racial equity.
I view it kind of like these YouTube videos where these hackers hack the scammers in India in these big buildings, and they're working professionally with teams to scam old people. He pretends to be an old lady while he's hacking the scammers in India.
What's the last 4 digits of your debit card?
I don't like to use cards because I don't think they're very secure.
All right, honey, do one thing.
And they're playing a role to do that. They con the con men.
This is Bertha.
Honey, I'm really sorry.
I'm getting very nervous. Can you please tell me what's going on?
So if you were to apply this logic that you're applying to Matt Walsh to that guy, like, you can't pretend to be an old lady. That's unethical. But if you're dealing with scammers, it's fair game.
If we did con her, which of course we did not, for the record, we simply gave her an opportunity to appear in our documentary about anti-racism. And that's an opportunity that she was eager to take advantage of. And we did, in fact, make a documentary about anti-racism.
The critique you're going to hear on this movie is that, well, Matt Walsh was not really genuinely looking for a deeper understanding of racism.
The problem with Matt's exploration of these subjects is that he never embarks upon this journey with any degree of actual curiosity.
But I don't think this movie is really about racism. I think it's about how racism has been redefined.
Let's make policies that are schoolyard fair.
What is racism?
Racism in our country today is that we have 40 million African Americans who feel like they're owed something.
That's not racism. And the grift built upon that redefinition, how it has been utilized as a tool, and this story has been created around racism in society today, and it has led to an industry. They need conflict drive story. That's lesson number 1 for screenwriters. They need the conflict to be alive. They need to keep the conflict. If you remove the conflict from the story, you no longer have the motivation for the people to come to listen to the speakers. They need racism to be relevant today in order to be able to charge these speaking fees.
They offered me between $10,000 and $20,000 for an interview. I said, let's meet in the middle with $15,000, and I agreed to participate.
You could say this goes for many professors in college. So there's an entire industry built upon this lazy facade. And I think that is what this movie is really about. It's about exposing that industry and the facade that's above this thing. And so then the critics claim that
he shouldn't have to lie and grift to do that journalism.
Well, this movie doesn't really care about racism, and it's making no real attempt to solve racism, the real issue here. But that's not what this movie needs to do. It's not what it is really about.
She continues, quote, when I arrived for the interview, a few things felt off. The grips would not make eye contact with me, and the interviewer, who was introduced as Matt, appeared to be wearing an ill-fitting wig. Yet, Robin, you still sat there and talked to me on camera for 2 hours. If what you say is true, then we can only conclude that you were willing to do anything just for the money.
Well, this movie doesn't really care about racism, and it's making no real attempt to solve racism, the real issue here. But that's not what this movie needs to do. It's not what it is really about. No one can solve racism. When we treat it in that manner, it does turn it into an industry and makes it something that can be monetized.
When the George Floyd protests broke out, her book saw a massive resurgence in popularity, which I think says a lot about a certain type of moderate white liberal.
Robin DiAngelo needs business to be a booming. She needs, if racism were, if people were to stop caring about this topic, stop feeling this deep guilt for things that happened before they were born, then, she would stop being able to charge these speaking fees.
I appreciate Robin's generosity in meeting in the middle with just $15,000. She really gave us a deal. You see, it was a bargain. We talked to her for about 2 hours, 15 grand, it's about, a little over $7,000 an hour.
And that's what I think is going to be most powerful about this movie, is Robin DiAngelo is cooked. Make no mistake about it. That's why she's deleted her social media. Even people on the left who are reviewing this movie and trying to attack the movie in their reviews, these little YouTube reviews.
He develops a foolproof costume, which is basically just this grandma-ass man bun wig.
That was a nice wig. That was an authentic wig.
Are openly acknowledging that Robin DiAngelo is nonsense.
Like, if you go on his Twitter, he has been pumping up so much that he managed to trick this white liberal woman who has not been socially relevant or politically relevant in like 5+ years. For those who don't remember, Robin DiAngelo is most famous for writing a book called White Fragility, which is basically the guidebook to a highly specific brand of hand-wringing white liberalism.
This group on the left that sees this, they're going to recognize the people exposed in this movie are liabilities, and they're going to push them out.
White Fragility is a book that, while probably well-meaning, is overly simplistic and caters to an idea that white people can learn their way towards being better people.
And they're even throwing her out of the tribe. NPR has thrown her out of the tribe.
In an NPR review, Columbia professor John McWhorter put it so well, saying, quote, "I think that what Robin DiAngelo is doing is well-intentioned, but I think ultimately is idle. Ultimately, the result of what she would create is a certain educated class of white person feeling better about themselves. And frankly, that's antithetical to her goal, because no matter how she wants to go, people are going to think that they've done some kind of work."
The scam has been revealed. And Robin DiAngelo knows that. That's why she's just kind of retreated and boom, vanished. And it's like, well, you made a lot of money while it lasted. So right off into the sunset. There will always be racism. It can only be solved within oneself at the individual level. It's not something, and if we have racist laws, we need to change those. But if we cannot point to a racist law, and yet we're going to still claim institutional racism.
I'm telling you that the government that they live under and pay taxes to created laws that allowed all of those things to happen and thus are responsible for that.
But those laws do not exist today.
They have been repealed, many of them.
If you can you articulate a single law that exists today?
What is it? But it doesn't matter if the law was yesterday. The point is, the government still exists.
It does. Isn't that that is the point? That is what matters. If it doesn't exist today, it's not an issue. That's the view of reality, meaning like the present. You're looking at problems within the past and saying that they relate to the present, even though they're not presents. They're not flaws that exist within the present. That's a flawed view of reality. If you sell that view to the future generation, it's going to exacerbate the problem.